Can do so now. Thank you. Okay, seeing and hearing no one, I will move to close the hearing and would look for a motion to adjourn as the Board of Equalization and reconvene as mayor and council.
So move, Your Honor.
Second.
Motion second. No discussion. Roll call, please.
Granquist,
Yes.
Langy,
Yes.
Merrill,
Yes.
Weeblehouse,
Yes.
Murin,
Yes.
Clausen,
Aye.
File.
Yes.
All council members voting in the affirmative.
Okay, with that, we will move on to item number 22. Entertain a motion for consideration of resolution number 2020-21, levying a special assessment for mowing, weed control, and litter and waste removal on property located at 401 North 4th Street in the amount of $295.10.
I'll offer for consideration Resolution 2020-21.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion on this? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Granquist,
Yes.
Langy,
Yes.
Merrill,
Aye.
Weeblehouse,
Yes.
Murin,
Yes.
Clausen,
Yes.
File.
Yes.
All council members present voting in the affirmative. Resolution 2020-21 is adopted.
Okay, item number 26 would entertain a motion to consider resolution number 2020-23, levying a special assessment in the amount of $13,779.52 against the property at 203 North Pine Street, Norfolk, Nebraska, for demolition of a structure.
Move consideration of resolution 2020-23.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Granquist,
Yes.
Langy,
Yes.
Merrill,
Yes.
Weeblehouse,
Yes.
Murin,
Yes.
Clausen,
Yes.
File.
Yes.
All council members present voting in the affirmative. Resolution 2020-23 is adopted.
Item number 27, I'll open this public hearing at the request of Wisner West Incorporated to consider a zoning change from C3 Service Commercial District and I1 Light Industrial District to C3 Service Commercial District on property generally located at the northwest corner of the intersection at Highway 35 and East Omaha Avenue. And to open the public hearing and for some background, Valerie Grimes, our city planner.
Yes, thank you. This piece of property is being asked to zone change from C3 and I1 to C3, and that is because it looks like years ago somebody had a plan in place and zone changed just a little section of it to C3. And instead of trying to figure out which is C3 and which is I1, it was just easier to relay C3 over the whole thing, which is why there's that kind of double ask to C3. The applicant is here for any other questions.
Okay. Thank you, Val. Any questions for Val? Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Honorable Council. My name is Jeff Ray, planner with JEO Consulting Group, representing Wisner West. There's also a plat that's following through this process. We've received preliminary plat approval at this point from the Planning Commission and working on the final at this point. There will be a relocation of some roads in this area to make it work a little bit more efficiently, work with Nebraska Department of Transportation to make sure we meet all their standards. And then working with Nebraska Department of Nebraska Public Power District, as well as they have a line that runs through there. So eventually this will all come before you. We're proposing uses, all that are compatible with the C3. It is consistent with your comprehensive plan and calls for this area to be commercial, and is a good front door to the city of Norfolk. So with that, if you have any questions for me, I'm willing to answer those, and I'm here.
Jeff, can you talk about any plans for use at this time or not?
The only known use is, and Val has that preliminary plat up, Lot 1 right now is slated to be a truck stop with a C-store. The other lots are being marketed. They're starting to be marketed now. So nothing has gone in, and we're going to continue to market that. And I think once we see some dirt moving on the site and putting in new roads and probably an extension of the public trail along the southern portion of that, connecting back over to the levee, I think you'll start to see more going on. Obviously, to the north of this, you've got East Grove going in with the Victory Village development. It's a pretty active portion of the community as you're continuing to grow this direction.
Very good, thank you. Any other questions for Jeff?
Jeff, the traffic flow, it looks like you're hoping to vacate part of Victory Road there.
Yeah,
Correct.
the way
We might be
that
ahead
would
of
go,
the
that
game
we're
here
trying to
with the
pull that
question.
intersection away from Highway 275 there to meet the Nebraska Department of Transportation standards. So obviously a truck stop, you have semi-truck movement coming through there. It is too close to the Channel Road intersection to put another light in there for a protected, or for signalized turns, but there are protected turn lanes that are in there. So it's envisioned that eastbound trucks would turn left into this. As they exit to the site, they would turn right and then come up to East Grove, and then back to Channel, and then take a left at the protected signal there. That's how the traffic is expected to go. Obviously, from the eastbound truck, traffic would continue east and then come back out and then continue, westbound would continue and make a right-hand turn and go out of there. And I think it should flow pretty well. There's a traffic study that has been conducted and submitted to, I think, Steve, you have it too? Okay, it's at least been submitted to NDOT at this point, so we'll be coming here shortly to city staff.
So we wouldn't have, my concern is traffic going north on Victory Road from there.
I don't see a significant amount of traffic going that direction, and as I recall from the study, it was fairly minimal. Most of it was coming back out to Channel and to 275.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
This is a public hearing. Anyone wishing to comment can do so now.
I just had a question for Val. Just as a matter of public education here. So, majority of this was all zoned I-1, correct?
Correct, yes.
So, for the public's knowledge, by going to C3, we're restricting certain things that can't be in C3, correct?
C3 is actually a less intensive district than I1, slightly, yes.
So I-1, if you could just give an example of something that could go into I-1 that can't go into C3.
Warehousing and storage without a conditional use permit, light industrial, manufacturing type, yes.
All right, thank you.
Any further questions? Again, this is a public hearing. Anyone else wishing to make comment can do so. Hearing no one, Planning Commission report, please, Brianna.
The Norfolk Planning Commission held a public hearing on June 16th, 2020 at the request of Wisner West, Inc. to consider a zoning change from C3, Service Commercial District, and I1, Light Industrial District, to C3, Service Commercial District, on property generally located at the northwest corner of the intersection at Highway 35 and East Omaha Avenue. The Planning Commission recommends approval of the request with an 8-0 vote.
Okay, thank you. With that, I'll close the hearing and move to item number 28. Look for a motion to consider ordinance number 5671 approving a zoning change from C3 and I1 to C3 on property generally located at the northwest corner of the intersection at Highway 35 and East Omaha Avenue.
I'll offer for consideration ordinance number 5671.
Second that, Your Honor.
Okay, motion and a second. Any further discussion on this, council? Seem to be prudent first steps for new commercial development in the area. which is a good thing, especially as it was mentioned, this is an important gateway and corridor coming into Norfolk. Any other questions or comments before we move forward? Hearing no one. Short title, please.
An ordinance of the City of Norfolk, Madison County, Nebraska, amending the zoning district map of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska, providing when this ordinance shall be in full force and effect, and providing for the publication of this ordinance in pamphlet form.
Okay, roll call, please.
Granquist,
Yes.
Langy,
Yes.
Merrill,
Aye.
Weeblehouse,
Yes.
Murin,
Yes.
Clausen,
Yes.
File.
Yes.
All council members present voting in the affirmative. Ordinance 5671 carries on first reading.
Your Honor, there is no opposition to this, and actually, this has been kind of a long time coming thing. I would move that we suspend the rules and pass this ordinance on second and third reading.
Second that, Your Honor.
Motion and second to suspend the rules and approve on second and third readings. If no further discussion, roll call, please.
Granquist,
Yes.
Langy,
Yes.
Merrill,
Yes.
Weeblehouse,
Yes.
Murin,
Yes.
Clausen,
Yes.
File.
Yes.
All council members present voting in the affirmative. Ordinance 5671 carries on second and third.
Okay, that takes us to item number 29. I will open this public hearing at the request of Eric Wilson to consider a zoning change from Agricultural District to RR, Rural Residential District, on property generally located at the southeast corner of the intersection at Highway 35 and Benjamin Avenue. And to kick off the public hearing, again, Valerie, could you give us some background, please?
Yes, thank you. I have brought up the piece of property. It's just on the Stanton-Madison County line into Stanton at the Benjamin and Highway 35 corner. The whole piece is not being requested to be zone changed. It is 2 6-acre and 1 8-acre piece of property that follows like the 2/3 along Benjamin to the east, I would say. And just to let you know too, before we get too far in, if this zone change does not pass, or if it does not pass on all 3 readings tonight, then the final plat for Wilson's will need to be pulled from the agenda, because if the zoning isn't correct, then the plat cannot pass. So you'll be seeing the plat here after this zone change. If you have any questions, the owner is also here, or if you have any other questions for me.
Okay, thank you, Valerie. Evening.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name's Eric Wilson, 929 East Norfolk Avenue. My wife and I purchased this property looking to build a house out there. If you look at the property, majority of that middle section is floodplain, as we've looked at options for this land. Talking with the city engineer, there's potential that this could be water retention for that area of town as development continues out past Eastern Heights. So there's not a lot of other options for us to do with that land. The majority, like I said, is all floodplain throughout the middle of that property. So we've decided that there'd be 3 little lots we could parcel off on that north side along Benjamin Avenue that we would sell as acreages.
How many acres altogether is this, Eric?
68 is the entire piece, I think.
Any questions for Eric? You're off the hook. Thank you. This is a public hearing, so anyone else wishing to make comment can do so now. Okay, hearing no one. Planning Commission report, please.
The Norfolk Planning Commission held a public hearing on June 16th, 2020, at the request of Eric Wilson to consider a zoning change from A, Agricultural District to RR, Rural Residential District, on property generally located at the southeast corner of the intersection at Highway 35 and Benjamin Avenue. The Planning Commission recommends approval of the request with an 8-0 vote.
Okay, thank you, Brianna. With that, I will close the hearing and move to item number 30. Entertain a motion to consider ordinance number 5672 approving a zoning change from Ag to RR on property generally located at the southeast corner of the intersection at Highway 35 and Benjamin Avenue.
I'll make a motion for consideration of ordinance number 5672.
Second that, Your Honor.
Okay, motion and a second. Any further discussion on this, council? Hearing none, short title, please.
An ordinance of the City of Norfolk, Madison County, Nebraska, amending the zoning district map of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska, providing when this ordinance shall be in full force and effect, and providing for the publication of this ordinance in pamphlet form.
Okay, with that, roll call, please.
Granquist?
Yes.
Langy?
Yes.
Merrill?
Yes.
Weeblehouse?
Yes.
Murin?
Yes.
Clausen?
Yes.
File?
Yes.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, ordinance 5672 carries on first reading.
Your Honor, I'd make a motion that we suspend the rules and pass ordinance 5672 on second and third. Means there's no opposition.
Second.
Okay, motion and second to suspend the rules and approve on second and third readings. If no further discussion, roll call, please.
Granquist?
Yes.
Langy?
Yes.
Merrill?
Yes.
Weeblehouse?
Yes.
Murin?
Yes.
Clausen?
Yes.
File?
Yes.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, ordinance 5672 carries on second and third.
Okay, that moves us to our regular agenda and item number 31. We look for a motion to consider resolution number 2020-24, approving the final plat and subdivision agreement for Wilson's Addition.
Your Honor, I'd move consideration of resolution 2020-24.
Second.
A motion and second. And Val, anything to add here?
If you'd like to see the plat, I can certainly bring it up if you want to see those acreages.
Sure.
Okay. I forgot to get that ready for you guys, sorry. What's it called? Wilson's. One of these two. So you can see what you zone changed are these 3 lots right up here. The remainder of the acreage stayed ag because it was over 40 acres.
Okay, makes sense. Any questions on this? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Granquist?
Yes.
Langy?
Yes.
Merrill?
Yes.
Weeblehouse?
Yes.
Murin?
Yes.
Clausen?
Yes.
File?
Yes.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, resolution 2020-24 is adopted.
Moves us to item number 32. I would look for a motion to consider approval to award a contract to A&R Construction of Plainview, Nebraska for the US 275 and 20th Street Pedestrian Improvements Project for an amount of $116,261.48.
I'll make the motion.
Second that, Your Honor.
Motion and second. And for some background on this, Steve Ramus, our city engineer, please.
Mayor, council members, this is a contract to put a pedestrian crossing in the, what I guess kind of what we refer to as the Buffalo Wild Wings intersection there on Highway 275. About half of the cost is associated with that crossing and the pedestrian activated signal. And the other half of that cost, since we're bringing in a pavement marking contractor to do what we call thermoplastic pavement markings there on that intersection or for that crossing, we've added approximately $60,000 to the contract to do additional pedestrian crossings, crosswalks around the community with that thermoplastic in some of our higher traffic areas, touch up our roundabouts. We'll also consider looking at potentially some other areas since we do have them in here. It's a high mob. It's about $7,500 to $10,000 to get these painting contractors here. So, you know, we want to take advantage of that while they are here. So.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Any questions?
So Steve, you said, so part of that painting contractor, that's part of the mobilization cost then?
Yeah.
A&R will be the general on that?
Yes.
Okay.
Steve, on that pedestrian signal, is that like the one by the junior high? With the LED?
No, this is your button that you push to activate the crosswalk. So it's just traditional signalized crosswalk with the amber sign up and the buttons on the posts.
Thank you.
Steve, are there any flashing warnings prior to getting to that intersection?
Not that I'm aware of, Rob.
Okay. Like there would be, like going, when you go over the viaduct, you're gonna go down and
Yeah, kind of
south and.
The amber light says
Yeah.
stop ahead. I'm not aware that there's an amber ahead of that. Generally, you'll see those as you approach a community, as you're starting to go from a rural highway into your community. We don't typically put those inside city limits, but
Is that will be the only, isn't that the only pedestrian crosswalk we're gonna have between
it is the only.
35 and the west side of town?
We have one at First Street for the elementary school over
yeah.
there.
Okay.
And again, that'll be one of them that we hit to update those crosswalks as well.
Okay.
So Steve, once we install this crosswalk, safe to say we're gonna address the sidewalk again with the businesses on the corner?
Yeah, now that we've got our contract in place, we'll be visiting with Buffalo Wild Wings to let them know
And
that,
other
you know,
businesses further south? I don't think there's a sidewalk parking lot.
Yeah, I don't recall exactly where we left that conversation. I believe right now, the way it is we were gonna terminate right where we turn to connect in the Buffalo Wild Wings parking lot, and we were not necessarily gonna be extending that to the south or west. Are you thinking south or west?
Probably both, but south to where the
So
gas
south would
company
be,
is.
yeah, south along the south side of B-dubs, and then along the old Shopko parking
Mhm.
lot there. Yes, we will be having those conversations.
Okay, thank you.
Chief Miller, you've seen the plans and all for this crosswalk? Have you been involved in that much at all? No? Okay. All right.
Estimated timeline on this, Steve,
I
for them
would,
getting here?
I would expect the work to be done going into the winter season, so this fall. We'll issue the contract, get contract documents in place, probably September, October. We've got some temperature constraints on the crosswalk that we need to meet before winter gets here.
Is there any work to be done on those islands right there also? The curbage and,
The island on the, what I'm gonna call the west side of that intersection actually gets cut back about 7 feet. Beyond that, just cutting it back so we can get the crosswalk in there, no.
okay. I didn't know if some of that curbage would be repaired also, that's been damaged by the years of snowplows and everything going through there in semis.
Yeah. One of the things we're gonna be doing this year relative to that conversation is presenting the DOT kind of a 5-year, maintenance or reconstruction plan on some work that needs to be done on both Highway 81 and 275 through the community, dealing with this, I don't know what you'd call it, delamination or breakaway of our curb, and many of those areas will be part of that.
Okay, thank you.
Steve, that thermoplastic, that bid, that 47,000, that's for these other areas too? Or just?
Correct,
Oh, for everything else that we wanted?
yeah.
All right.
It's about $35 a linear foot to put that down,
Sure.
but it lasts 5 years and better.
But the cost is for other projects, not just this single?
Not just that one,
Yes.
yeah.
All right, thank you.
Any further questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Grandquist,
Yes.
Langy,
Yes.
Merrill,
Yes.
Weeblehouse,
Yes.
Murin,
Yes.
Clausen,
Yes.
File.
Yes.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, motion carries.
Okay, item 33 would look for a motion to consider approval of an agreement between the City of Norfolk and Police Facility Design Group, PA, for a police facility needs assessment.
I'd make that motion, Your Honor.
Second.
Motion and second, and to get some background on this, we have Shane Widener, our Public Safety Director, and Chief Don Miller, with the Police Department.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'll let Chief sign in here and This needs assessment is something that staff thinks is very appropriate, and the timing is appropriate. We've been talking internally about it and just looking over the police division building. It was built in 1987, a couple years before either one of us had any boots on the ground here for the city of Norfolk, so it's been around for 30-plus years. And the community has grown since then, the police force has grown since then, and we think it's time to take a good look at it. We met with the subcommittee and got some input from the elected officials, and they concurred with that assessment. The folks that are gonna do it, if you agree to this tonight, are the same engineering group that did the police division and the fire division back in 85-ish, 86-ish, when they started looking at that for construction in 87. It's gonna take a comprehensive look at the building, look at our current needs and future needs for the next 20-plus years, which is gonna accomplish a major blueprint and for us and Chief to hold in his hand and take care of his needs going forward. And it also looks at the functionality of the current design from two particular factors that are very timely. The first being we're in the process of working with Madison County and looking at a regional dispatch center, housing it inside our police division. The space needs for the current dispatch center and our records, we're looking at that area, which is centrally located in the building, and the possibility to flip those potentially and gain some room, because if we do move forward as a regional dispatch center, we'll need additional dispatch councils, and just from our mind's eye as staff, we think there's great potential to do that and flip it. So the engineering group will look at that space and give us good ideas and assessment whether that's very feasible to do that construction or that flipping in the next year or so. And also, we are in the need of doing new boilers.
Boiler.
Got 3 boilers, Chief?
Yes, and two boilers and one.
So we have,
Yeah, 3 boilers, and we currently have 3 boilers. They're the original boilers from 1987. Several years ago, about 7 years ago, when we had some updates to our HVAC system, they told us that we had about 7 more years on the boilers. And so we chose at that time not to replace those at the time. 7 years later, I guess they did a good job estimating. We had one of the boilers has gone down, and that will need to be replaced before winter, regardless, just because we won't have heat otherwise. I mean, timing is good. It went out just as that was starting to warm up. And so when we were talking about this and the boiler system occurred, we talked to them about they usually do a general overview of the heating system. And we talked to them about, since we're in this position, we don't want to be replacing a boiler if it ends up being relevant later on. Are we doing the right boiler? Are we planning for expansion? We don't want to spend money for a boiler that would have to be torn out later on if that's what would end up happening. So they're doing a little bit more of a comprehensive study on our building to determine if we don't expand, what's the plan? If we would have the ability to expand, we want to make sure that we have the proper heating system for both scenarios, instead of wasting the money in that process. So yeah, we've got looking at the dispatch center as a possible phase 1, and then the heating and air system, or the boiler system, and then we're looking at the ability to potentially expand our building for future needs. We're very tight over at the police department, and we've expanded. Back in 1987, when we moved into the building, we had 30 officers and 7 dispatchers. We now have 41 officers and 12 dispatchers, and that's not counting other record staff and stuff. But we're tight. We'll make do either way, but we believe that there's a need, and this will give us an assessment and also give us some good floor plans to look at on, is it feasible to expand the current building, or does the footprint not fit the needs? So there's a lot that we're going to get out of this for not just a floor plan. We're getting a good study as well. And the company that we're using, not only did they do Norfolk back in '97, but they have a long history of specializing in police, fire, dispatch, and jail centers. And I've got a long list of Nebraska ones that they've recently been involved with and designed, including Kearney, Columbus, Bellevue, Papillion, Blair. There's a long list of police facilities that this company has done. So they've got a reputation before them that's very good. Doesn't mean that they would be the ones doing the final product if that's what happened, but this is just the study to see what our possibilities are, and they will give us renderings at the end of what it could look like. So it's not just a general guess, it's gonna be some stuff that we can actually sit down and look at and study.
And share with the community.
Absolutely.
What's the timeline of completion
Of
for
the stu-
them?
Of the study?
Of the study, yes.
They thought about 3 months.
Okay.
And that includes not only, they're gonna come here and they're gonna talk to us about our needs. We'll have conversations about, what other communities are doing, sometimes you don't know what you don't know. And, they thought they could have it done within about 2 to 3 months. And we told them it's a little bit of a time frame because we have the boilers that we have to work with before winter. So.
We'll start with the boilers, Councilman. So.
But yes, they know that there's a shorter time frame, and they said that that's very doable for them.
So we're kind of anticipating completion of it before the end of the fiscal year then?
Right at the beginning of the fiscal year, yes, sir.
Okay.
Should have, real close.
So is it in this fiscal year's budget?
We're gonna take the funds from our capital improvements program, and we have $250,000 set aside for our public safety training tower needs that we set aside for some potential improvements out there. We're going to not do those improvements at the training center. We were gonna do a remodel of the classroom. But since we expended the funds for the EOC remodel here at City Hall and at the fire station and at the police station, our utilization of that training facility, classroom in particular, won't be quite as significant. So we're gonna use those dollars that were set aside in the capital improvements plan. We're gonna take those dollars out of there, and then it'll leave us $227,000 left for any eventual improvements or swapping of records and dispatch center potentially. So we'll have some dollars left over in a capital improvements program that'll be carried over to next year.
So the plan's in the range of what, about 20 to 25,000?
$22,900 is the price. And that includes, he included other, usually they have extra expenses for travel and stuff. They included all those extra expenses into that.
Okay.
Do you have any other questions?
I've been in your building, same time you were back in 1990. Some of it looks the same. It looks a little tired, which is, sorry to see that, but there's always money's got to go elsewhere. But, in my occupation, I see a lot of police departments in Class 1 cities throughout the state. And a couple of the bigger cities, they're in repurposed buildings. I like the idea that we have our own that was built and designed. And I think what you're doing here is a great idea, to have a plan before we have to talk to the public about what it's going to cost.
Sure. But I have my ideas as to our possibilities, and I'll share that with the architects, and we'll discuss all that. But, I believe that the current structure can be very functional instead of having to start new. I'm not a construction person, but based on what I'm anticipating, the building still has good bones, as they say. A lot of the building is original. In fact, my office still has the original carpet from 1987, and surprisingly, it's in decent shape.
The maroon paint on the metal.
We've maintained it, and
Made that paint.
but it's starting to show wear. Our boilers are going out, our water heaters are going to be going out, and it's time to do something. So we're kind of looking at the possibilities before we settle into a specific plan to make sure that we're making smart decisions.
So you missed the great taupe craze of the early 2000s, then. That's good.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, Chief, where is Police Facility Design Group out of?
Where's what?
Where are they out of?
Kansas City.
Kansas City, okay, thank you.
Well, and it makes sense in that location. There's room to grow as well if it's determined that there's expansion needed. And I think it's, as the councilman said, a reasonable step to explore reinvestment there. particularly in preparation for potential joint dispatch services and meeting the space needs of growing department division. So, any other questions or comments?
Great.
Okay, thank you. Okay. No further discussion. Roll call, please.
Grandquist,
Yes.
Langy,
Yes.
Merrill,
Yes.
Weeblehouse,
Yes.
Murin,
Yes.
Clausen,
Yes.
File.
Yes.
All council members present voting in the affirmative. Motion carries.
Okay, takes us to item 34. I would look for a motion to consider resolution number 2020-25, approving the preliminary plan development on property generally located at the southeast quarter, northeast quarter section, 23 Township, 24 Range, 1 West, at the request of N8 Development LLC.
I'll offer for consideration Resolution 2020-25.
Second?
Motion and second. And Val, could you give us some background on this, please?
Yes, thank you. I have brought up the preliminary plan development before you. This is the preliminary, so if it passes tonight, they will bring back the final plan development before Planning Commission and Council. Why they're asking for a plan development, I don't know if, I guess I should back up. This is Sunrise Drive and Victory Road, Legacy Bend. So you've seen some single-family houses going up out there, a couple apartment buildings that are already being lived in, a third apartment building being built. The plan development before you includes another 2, 4, 5 apartment buildings for the future, and then the smaller single family in the center. This is the little triangle down here is the clubhouse pool area. And so what they're asking for is, one, the clubhouse to not have as many off-street parking spaces. It normally would be required for a public gathering space of that size, because it's going to mostly be for the neighborhood, so most people will be walking. So some off-street parking and then some on-street parking. And then mainly the smaller single-family lots in here. It's a design called traditional neighborhood design. And so that means that the parking will be coming off of an alley. The garage will be off of an alley. And they will have smaller setbacks to the rear and the front, because normally we have a 25-foot front yard setback. They're asking for a 15-foot front yard setback to get those porches closer to the sidewalk to engage the community as you're walking your dog and, you know, just taking your neighborhood evening stroll, to get people more into the community. Oh, of course. Let me bring this up again, because this will probably help you understand the neighborhood design a little bit, because, what was it called? This is what they brought up at Planning Commission, maybe. We're having technical difficulties tonight, I'm sorry. Maybe we won't see that. But it was a rendering. I think you even saw it in the newspaper, because the newspaper asked for the renderings after Planning Commission. But it just shows what it looks like with those smaller front yard setbacks, with the porches in the front, and then all of the access being from the rear. So what they're asking for is the 15-foot front yard setback and then a 15-foot rear yard setback, because normally the rear yard is 20% of the lot, need not be more than 30. And so they want to maximize these small lots. And because this is R2 zoning, they have the potential, I don't know if you should call them this or not, but we always call them like mother-in-law units, and they would be the garage that is still attached, and they would put that above the garage. So because it's R2, you can technically have 2 units on the same lot, and so some of them may also have that. If there's any questions.
Okay, thank you, Al. Any questions?
their clubhouse, is that gonna be privately owned by the association there? They're not asking us to run it?
As far as I know, they're not asking us to take it as a public
The
park.
pool,
no.
I guess, is what I was thinking
Yeah.
of.
Yeah, it's part of the development. And yeah, it makes sense to me to, through this plan development, offer the flexibility for a new model of mixed housing in the community that's, directly integrating quality of life enhancements. I think that's positive for everyone. Any questions or further discussion?
Val, are we talking about like gravel alleys or paved alleys? What's this look like?
I thought they were talking about paved alleys. Do you remember that from Planning Commission, Steve?
They're paved alleys.
Val, you said a total of 5 apartment buildings? There's 3 are completed now, right?
I think 2 are complete.
Two are
The
completed.
third one's well on its way. And then just this plan development has another 5.
Another
included
5.
in. Yeah.
Okay, any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Granquist,
Yes.
Langy,
Yes.
Merrill,
Yes.
Weeblehouse.
Yes.
Murin,
Yes.
Clausen,
Yes.
File.
Yes.
All council members present voting in the affirmative. Resolution 2020-25 is adopted.
Okay, item 35. Would look for a motion to consider ordinance number 5673, amending section 24-8 of the code to reconcile the section with state statute as it relates to the minimum age of a licensed driver that must accompany a person driving under a valid learner's permit.
Your Honor, I move consideration of ordinance number 5673 on first reading.
Motion and second, and for some background on this, our city attorney, Danny Myers.
Good evening. The ordinance before you is for an amendment to section 24-8 of the city code to bring subsection C up to date with our state statute. This section of code involves the requirements for an individual to operate an automobile using a valid learner's permit. Our current provision says that the driver must be someone who's at least 19 years of age, but with this amendment, it will read that it's an offense for a person operating a motor vehicle in the city of Norfolk under a valid learner's permit. It will be an offense unless they are with a licensed operator who is at least 21. So essentially, this is just a cleanup item, moving the age from 19 to 21 for the person that someone with a learner's permit would drive with.
Okay, thank you, Danny. Any questions? Discussion on this?
Danny, how long's the state had this running at 21? I'm kind of surprised at me.
You know, that's honestly something that I was looking up too. I'm not sure. I noticed that there was an amendment in 2008 and in 2016. So it's been for a while. I'm not sure how long it's been.
Okay.
Okay. If no further discussion, short title, please.
An ordinance of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska to amend Section 24-8 of the official city code to reconcile the section with state statute as it relates to the minimum age of a licensed driver that must accompany a person driving under a valid learner's permit, to provide when this ordinance shall be in full force and effect, and to provide for the publication of this ordinance in pamphlet form.
Okay, roll call, please.
Granquist,
Yes.
Langy,
Yes.
Merrill,
Yes.
Weeblehouse,
Yes.
Murin,
Yes.
Clausen,
Yes.
File.
Yes.
All council members present voting in the affirmative. Ordinance 5673 carries on first reading.
Your Honor, I'd move we suspend the rules, pass ordinance 5673 on second and third due to no opposition.
Second that, Your Honor.
Motion and second to suspend the rules and approve on second and third readings. If no further discussion, roll call, please.
Granquist,
Yes.
Langy,
Yes.
Merrill,
Yes.
Weeblehouse,
Yes.
Murin,
Yes.
Clausen,
Yes.
File.
Yes.
All council members present voting in the affirmative. Ordinance 5673 carries on second and third.
Takes us to item 36. Would look for a motion to consider resolution number 2020-26, providing for a joint communications center between the city of Norfolk and Madison County, and establishing a joint advisory committee for emergency dispatch service to include a Madison County Commissioner, a member of the Norfolk City Council, the Madison County Sheriff or designee, the Norfolk Police Chief or designee, the Norfolk Fire Chief or designee, the Dispatch Supervisor, and an at-large Madison County Emergency Responder as selected by Madison County Fire Rescue Departments.
Your Honor, I'd move for consideration of resolution number 2020-26.
Second?
Okay, motion and second. And to give us background on this, again, Shane Widener, our Public Safety Director.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is a resolution that's going to cement in our Joint Advisory Committee. This is a group of interested individuals elected and appointed that have been meeting on this topic for some time. In fact, this is really has been a consideration that I can personally attest to that goes back 20-plus years. Just the idea of having a regional dispatch center and a joint dispatch center. We do currently have a PSAP, or Public Safety Answering Point, in Sheriff Volk's charge at Madison County, and obviously we have one here at the City of Norfolk. So this committee would establish a working group that's going to be responsible for further planning and implementation of a joint dispatch center, and then when and if that happens, this group would be an advisory board to deal with issues that may come up from a dispatching perspective. You know, there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of things going on in the dispatch center that are happening behind the scenes, and this group would be that advisory committee moving forward after it's established as well. So really, it's something that needs to be done. I do know this agenda item is on the county commission tomorrow, so they'll be hearing that as well at the commissioners meeting tomorrow. With your permission, we would establish this advisory board and continue to move forward and make progress to bring this dream to reality. One thing that's appropriate I wanted to add is the timing of this is pretty exceptional. I think all the right pieces are in place to make this happen, including our investment in a new radio system and the county's investment in a new radio system and dispatch center councils. Those councils are like, so they can easily be, and Sheriff can talk to this directly, but his councils are exactly like ours, so they can easily be transferred into our dispatch center. So we're nearing flipping on the switch fully of our radio system, and that's occurring as we speak and should be up and running here very shortly. And the county has done that already with this statewide radio system as well. So those are two large items, and then when you bring the right players together that I think are on this advisory committee, it really makes for good public decision making. So be happy to answer any questions, or if you guys have any comments further about that, Chief and Sheriff, that'd be great.
I really don't have a whole lot to add other than the obvious. Having two public safety answering points 15 miles apart, there's a little bit of redundancy there, and Sheriff Volk and I have been discussing it, and there's money to be saved in both agencies to better serve our communities and make better use of the funds that we have access to. And there will have to be some adjustments with staffing, and but in the end, the idea would be to save everybody some money and to better utilize the resources we have and be able to serve the whole area more effectively by combining our resources instead of duplicating them. But you got anything to add to Todd or not?
Just other than the fact that you guys didn't realize the city of Norfolk is paying for 2 911 centers in our county. One here in town and one helping with us down in Madison. And by putting this together, I've worked with these two gentlemen for I don't know how many years, 25 plus years now. We're able to get this going. We are going to save some finances, I think, in the long term. As I said with the radios, here just shortly, as soon as we get one update, we're going to be able to talk with Norfolk officers off of our system. So all that electronics and communications that we just spent a whole lot of money on between the city and the county is all going to work together. It's going to work out pretty good, and we're going to have some disagreements and arguments amongst us here, but we're going to come out with a real good product. I think it's going to serve Madison County and the surrounding area very well.
Very good.
I would add, Mayor and Council, that as we transition and make this plan to come together, it fits perfectly in with Next Generation 911. Northeast Nebraska's Northeast 911 is kind of the moniker that is being attached to a working group that's been working on Next Generation 911 needs that we're highly involved in, along with 8 other counties, and Norfolk, as it's planned now, would be one of the hub dispatch centers, along with South Sioux City being the 2 largest entities inside the Northeast Nebraska Working Group. This is a movement that's happening is mandated across the state of Nebraska, and we are moving towards that goal as well, and this would blend right into those needs.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, Shane, because it makes sense that there would be some other opportunities for regional services to be carried out from here. So, yeah. It's also, I'd also say it's encouraging to see this level of partnership between City of Norfolk and Madison County. We haven't always had that, and it is sensible to create this working group of sorts to explore this opportunity that I think creates a lot of efficiencies and consolidates resources. Any other questions on this or discussion from the council?
Just one quick question for the community's knowledge. As of right now, Madison County and Norfolk cannot talk to each other on the radios?
In our old systems, we could not. We've all gone to the new radio system. Madison was up and going a month ago,
About
2 months ago. We're currently in the process of transitioning. The PD is currently using the new radio system. They're installing fire equipment, I think, this week. So within the next couple of weeks, we'll be fully integrated. There's a new programming thing that we need to do for our new radios that will make sure that we can talk at, because you guys were talking at the Big Bang Boom, weren't you?
Yeah, they found one frequency, a couple of the officers did that I couldn't find.
Okay.
But
I mean, like every new system, there's some glitches. So we're working through and identifying those, but yes, we will be able to talk.
So efficiency-wise, this will make us a lot safer in the communities
oh, absolutely.
for backup and help and everything else.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Any further discussion, council? Okay. Hearing none, roll call, please.
Grandquist,
Yes.
Langy,
Yes.
Merrill,
Yes.
Weeblehouse,
Yes.
Murin,
Yes.
Clausen,
Yes.
File.
Yes.
All council members present voting in the affirmative. Resolution 2020-26 is adopted.
Okay, and last but not least, item number 37, would look for a motion to consider approval of amendment number 1 to the original letter agreement for engineering services with Olson for the 37th Street Drainage Project for a time and expense basis not to exceed $45,000.
And I move consideration of amendment number 1.
Second.
Motion and second, and Steve Ramus, can you give us some background on this, please?
Mayor and council, recently with some project activity down on South 37th Street in Omaha, the city has annexed some property down in that area. As we look at some of the drainage activity that's occurring here, about 2 months ago, we had done a contract with Olson's for $9,500 to look at all of the drainage in that area, primarily north and west of 37th Street in Omaha. That's the drainage that's coming down into that area and really inundating that particular intersection. What's happening there is the water is entering a sort of a circular drainage system that is really not outletting. What this contract is going to do is provide an outlet to that drainage from that intersection down to the river. There's 3 different kind of components to this project, or 3 different projects I think that are being sort of benefit from this. One is in the design of the drainage that we need. We will kind of structure that design to accommodate some borrow needs in that area. We'll also grade the trail from, right now, when the county redid 37th Street from Warren Garage Door south to Omaha, they graded in a trail extension down to Omaha. This project would grade the remaining portion of that trail to connect into the Cowboy Trail south of Omaha there. And then right there in the Cowboy Trail, just to the west of 37th Street, is a natural bridge, or a bridge structure on the Cowboy Trail. So the ditching that we're proposing to do here, to design, would get it to that point, and then there would be some additional ditch cleanup to get it from that structure under the Cowboy Trail down to the river. The drainage outlet would stay on city property. We own property, all the property to the south and to the west of 37th Street. And then we have a sliver of property that slips around and connects into the river. And so that's kind of the path that we're taking the drainage with this contract. Again, kind of going back to one of my previous comments, as that water comes down the west side of 37th Street, currently it goes to the southeast quadrant, it goes east, and then it passes back to the north and can't get out of that, and it kind of sits there and circulates until it starts to flood over Omaha or flood over 37th Street. So this would be fixing that.
Okay. And with the amount of activity and development in that area, we're going to have to find a solution to that problem sooner rather than later. So.
That is also the area we're looking at, potential wetland bank just to the west of 37th Street, south of Omaha. And in conjunction with this, we will continue to look at that design as well. It could be almost as simple as a ditch block to the west on the north side of Omaha and a pipe to the south. And we might be able to develop a substantial amount of wetlands.
Okay. Any questions for Steve?
Not so much question as said when Steve first presented this at subcommittee that way. It was, I mean, the big benefit of it too is the development down there is going to take some fill.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a borrow situation or potential for a borrow situation that cuts that fill almost, I would say, even more than half that way. So you move twice as much dirt for the same money. So this is a win-win for everybody involved.
Yeah, that's a good point. And with the intersection with the Cowboy Trail and the extension of the 37th Street Trail to Cowboy Trail eventually is a big benefit as well. So, any other questions or comments? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Greinquist?
Yes.
Langy?
Yes.
Merrill?
Yes.
Liebelhaus?
Yes.
Murin?
Yes.
Clausen?
Aye.
File?
Yes.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, motion carries.
And that concludes this meeting of the Norfolk City Council. We are adjourned.